Ooh, yeah. Oh, I'm live. Hello. Oh, gosh. I don't want to do that. Stop. I have to put my iPad into cooperative mode. It's in rebellion. This thing has a mind of its own. The other day I was singing the praises of Apple, but now I'm like, now wait a minute, y'all. Wait a minute now. There it is. Oh, I can't do it that way. Okay. Well, then that's an interesting challenge. Well. I hope everyone's doing okay out there in internet land. I'm doing okay. I'm having a good day. It's the day before Easter. It's the day before Easter. Aha! Aha! That's a special aha. I know it's quickly becoming my catchphrase here. Hey, yeah, go ahead and tell my followers that I'm about to be live. Let me just, cheat some room here. Cheat some room. I'm going to have to take some of this off. I mean, this is way too much. Oh, I got Danielus in the house. What's up, Daniel? I don't want to show my legs off to you too much. Now you might think this is a different kind of show if I start showing legs. Hey, Emily, how are you? I hope everyone's having a good day today. It rained a little bit here in Central Texas for about 20 good minutes. Hello. And man, it was like the heavens decided to break open. Man, I thought I was going to have to build a boat. Man, I'm going to be bougie, guys. This unfortunately, I'm not big enough yet. I don't have enough followers to be brought to you by any particular beverage company. But if I was, I would hope that it would be bubbly. Just because I like it. This is the cherry water. I think, unfortunately, I get most of my hydration from canned waters, which is probably not good. You know, I think that we're going to figure out in like 10 years that this stuff like gives cancer somehow. And I'm afraid, you know, I'm already skating to the puck. Like I've already updated my will and everything. This thing, they're just going to take me out. But what I particularly like, I'm going to get classy with it. What I particularly like, and I don't know if you can see this, it's so tiny. It says howdy. I don't want to spill either because this is sweet nectar. It says howdy on the tab. I think that's just real nice. It's real friendly. I have had the aha. I love it. Yeah, they do a peach flavor that is the best peach flavor of all the canned waters. They were out when I braved the grocery store most recently. And so I feel like next time I will look for it again. What flavor do you recommend, Emily? Hope it's a good one. Oh, they also have a strawberry cucumber. That's really good. Yeah, y'all can tell. Ooh, watermelon. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. That's good. So I got two angles going right now. I've got YouTube going live, and I've got Instagram stream going live. Cherry coffee. Ooh, I don't know about that. That sounds like, I mean, you know, YOLO, live once, or, you know, give it a shot. Well, it is 7 p.m. on the nose here in Central Texas, wherever you are watching from. So thank you for joining me. This is Let's Draw Together with Seanzy. I think this is my 5th episode, as a matter of fact. So this is pretty exciting. I'm thinking about trying not to call them episodes. I want to call them sessions because I think episode is like a closed off experience. And I want the audience to be able to participate. Like, you know, my purpose in teaching this class is for it to be live and interactive. Like my hope, you know, and you can do whatever you want. I mean, but my hope is that you're here to learn how to draw, maybe get some entertainment. You know, I started this particular project I got the idea worm in my mind about 3 weeks ago when I realized that this quarantine thing was serious and that, it wasn't just going to be like weekend long or, maybe a week and a half. It was like, oh, mercy heavens, this is about to be some time. And so my personal philosophy, I always like to invest in my skills and in my time. I like to, really just add to what I'm already doing. What up, Brody? Add to what I'm already doing. And for me, one of the biggest joys in my life has always been visual art. I've got a degree in painting and drawing from University of North Texas, despite working in finance. And it's always been something that, as a joy, I've been able to take with me anywhere that I've gone. And so my hope is to, in this time, share some joy with you guys in the joy of drawing. Now, that being said, this is educational, and I'm going to take this first little bit of time really to just a little bit of an ask. It came to my attention last week that there are hundreds, if probably not thousands or tens of thousands of students across Texas who have been asked to be home. And as part of that, a lot of their education has gone online. Well, my sister is a teacher, and she was the one who brought this to my attention. She's a teacher in Irving ISD, right there in the middle of Dallas and Fort Worth. And she said that of her 1,700 students, there's at least 120 who have self-identified that they do not have internet access at home. And I think that's a problem because, long-term absenteeism is not just like, 1 month of delay. It can often cause a year delay or the eventual progression of not ever getting a high school diploma, not ever getting into college or into any other type of situation where they would be able to, make something of themselves, contribute to society. And so my hope, at least with this video series, is to raise some awareness of that. I do have a GoFundMe that I'm raising dollars in. So you can give $1, $5, $10. I'm not asking for the world, but just something like that. That way we can help get some children educated and have a better tomorrow. Because eventually, I'm 33. Eventually, there's going to be these kids who are Gen Z, doing the, what do they call it, flossing. They're going to be flossing into the White House, and they're going to be running things. So let's make sure that they are a smart and educated population. So that's my ask. I've got more information on my Instagram profile. You can also follow the links that I will post in the YouTube as well. But enough of all that. You're here really to learn how to draw. So let's do that. Today is the 4th video in the Learn to Draw People series. So I'm going to just recap in what we've done so far. In our first video of this series, we really talked about the basic building shapes. Hello. We talked about the basic building shapes that it takes to actually render a human being onto page. Some tools that I like to use, just some shorthand. I like to use a circle for the head, some triangles for the shoulder blades. I like to do some zigzag lines to represent the hands and the arms, because we can basically start to articulate the body using those zigzags. I like to draw an upside down heart for the rib cage because it looks like that each way you look at it. Do the spine, which is also an S curve if you're looking at it at the side, and then kind of a shovel shape for the hips. And you can make those hips wide, you can make those hips narrow, however you want to do, that's fine. And then you do the same zigzag idea for these limbs down here. We call them legs, and they terminate into either triangle shapes, or you could do like kind of these weird not quadrilaterals because they're not all equal, but those rhomboid type shapes. Or whatever. And so then as I took you through that basic skeleton structure, I showed you how to actually put some roundness to that and make it look like a human being. And so I did that, I used all the same tools as I was building. Zigzags, I did the heart-shaped rib cage, the shovel shape for the pelvis and for the hips, the zigzags for the legs, all the way down. Same idea here in the seated figure. you can basically take these tools and extrapolate them into whatever it is that you want. Then we started talking a little bit about perspective and the way that the eye sees. The eye we have pupils that focus on specific points. And from that specific point, reality starts to manifest itself to our eyes in bigger and bigger circles. Sorry, folks, on Instagram, if you can't see that, I'm trying to maybe change the exposure point. There we go. That's better. You can see. Where we talked about that focal point, and we're going to get into a little bit of perspective today. Next week's lessons are all going to be built around like how to actually build perspective so that we can render complex visual structures like the inside of buildings, the outside of buildings. We'll get into drawing pathways and mountains and all kinds of fun nature stuff. It's good. But anyway, so with perspective, whenever we're drawing real things, real things, even imaginary things, but that are grounded in reality. And I mean that in terms of not talking about abstract art. Whenever we're drawing real things, we're dealing with what's called figure and ground. So the ground is basically what the horizon line is, or just whatever it is that person's standing on. Maybe you're looking up at them, and then the horizon line is going to be higher. Maybe you're looking down at them, and the horizon line is going to be higher. It's basically that matter of perspective that you as the viewer are seeing at the time. So that's the ground, and then this is the figure. Well, we can scale the figure down toward that point. And so I started that point, that's the focal point, and I brought it here and out, and I basically kept the shapes relatively consistent from point to point to point. And that shows a person basically walking away. And these are the same building blocks that I just went over. So if you're just looking at it as a wireframe skeleton, you're like, man, can he even draw? Does he know what he's talking about? Because that looks like a weird stick figure to me. That's a stick figure that's been skiing and broke its legs. Then we talked about the way that light folds over a shape. So this idea is really talking about the way that when we look at an object, we see light, or we are able to see objects because light is constantly bouncing off of the object and inputting its dimensions and its colors into our eyes. And so we can take that same idea and we can put that down as pigment onto the surface or onto the paper. So what that means is, basically here, this is kind of a bad example. I would never actually draw the highlight, but in the emphasis of the class, I drew the highlight so that you could see as the light is coming down, it's the nearest point to the light. So if I point here to my nose, you can see that white little dot there. That's the nearest point of my body to the light. And so that's why I've got a little white dot there. If I was to move around, you can see the white dots moving around on my glasses, a little bit on my forehead, all these things. And we see some on my knuckles and all that. So the white dot represents the nearest point to the light. And then that light is going to start to explore that shape from that single focal point, which is what that arrow represents. So it's coming down and it's shaping that object. We went over the 6 stages of light. That's detailed more in my most previous video. If y'all have any questions, though, please feel free to write it down. I do want this to be interactive. So if I'm going too fast on this glance over, let me know, and I'll do my best to accommodate. And then to finish, on last session, trying not to say episode, last session, I did just a live figure drawing example using a reference that I picked from Pinterest because I thought, hey, that's kind of fun. I've got a figure ground idea. I've got a nice twist in the body so that I can represent the front of the person and then also get that nice back, clear head, clear silhouette, nice shapes. So one thing that I've done in this series is as I've drawn these people to represent, everyone's been pretty square on. And that's not really how we see reality. We see things in space. So when I move toward the camera, my hands are getting bigger and my head is getting smaller in relation to them. And so that's kind of the fun of art, is that you're looking at right now a static camera, and you're not really looking at it in space if you were in person, you would naturally see that difference in space. So in the art arena, I want to cover how do we actually understand what forced perspective is. And hey, we got Scott Kerr in the house. That's cool. So what I want to do today is I want to talk a little bit about forced perspective in art, and using that to create a stronger sense of realism in our art. So earlier, I prepared a couple of examples. It's actually, forced perspective is kind of a catch-all term. So you can use the term forced perspective it's a form of trompe l'oeil, which is an art term which means the fooling of the eye. And so you can do all sorts of forced perspective. I like to think about it as making the object that's nearest to you proportionately larger than the rest of the body. So I'm going to start with this first example, which is this girl with an ice cream cone, and she's licking the Tower of Pisa behind her. And I'm going to call out a couple of things. So normally in the other examples, there's some constants with the body that as we render the body square on, we get into these pretty orthodox proportions, so like a hand is the size of the face, I'm not going to do that. A face is, a person is generally, anywhere from 7 to 7.5 heads tall. When you represent them, they tend to be about 3 to 3.5 heads wide, from one point of the shoulder to the other point of the shoulder. But in forced perspective, you're actually changing those orthodox relationships, and you're having fun with the shapes overall. So I'm going to start with this example because it's a little bit more exaggerated. Hold on, let me change my focal point for you guys so you can get a little bit more of the darks there on Instagram. So in this example, we can see that this is a more illustrative style. I've got harder lines around the object or around the drawing than I do maybe in some more realistic looking art, but that's okay. This is my style. There's no real wrong way to do art, by the way, guys. My objective is for you to enjoy art as it is, how you want to make it. If you want to do hard lines, do hard lines. If you want to have soft lines, have soft lines. That's what it's all about. It's about exploring what you like and what kind of marks you like to have on the page. So in this specific example, the hand is quite large. If I were to hold my fist up to my face, my fist is not the size of my head. My fist is basically about a quarter, maybe a less than the size of my head. But in this specific example, if I were to take the hand next to the head, well, they're about the same size. So the visual information that I'm seeing as I look at this is that this object is now closer to me than it would be in a more square situation. So that's one thing. Another subtle thing here, and this is one of the reasons why I went with the harder line work. And let me go ahead and I'll just bring it closer to you so you can see. Try not to shimmer too much. So one of the things that I've done is the hand has bolder lines than the head. I didn't spend a lot of time on the hair too much. I didn't really care about rendering the hair, but also notice the line weight of the Tower of Pisa right there behind. It's very thin lines. You've got, I've got some shadow in there. Like I said, I didn't render it out too much, but the objective really was to put more focus on that nearest object, which is the hand, and then to slowly deteriorate the level of detailed information as I move farther and farther away. That's really the objective with forced perspective. It's to bring the eye to that nearest point, just like you would when you focus on something. When something is nearest to your face, your eyes have to adjust themselves, your pupils have to dilate, so that you can start to do, what is this in front of me? But then details as they surround that object start to get fuzzy. They're not as clear, they're not as crystal as they ought to be. They're a little bit more fluid. Okay, so that's a little bit more of a pronounced example. This one is a little bit more of a subtle example. And I realize now that as I'm looking at this hand, it's difficult to see. So I'm going to just throw in some quick lines here to bring out these fingers, just so you can see them a little bit easier, so I can talk a little bit about them. Okay, that works a little bit. It kind of changes the tone because that's a warm color and this graphite is cool. We'll get into tonality or whatever later. But okay, so this is a twisting example. And by a twisting example, it looks like it's a guy, he's rearing back, he's gonna throw a nice haymaker on somebody. He's loading up that hand to really get some power into it. Notice how his front foot, though, is bigger than his back foot. It's coming at you. And his front hand is bigger than his back hand. So instead of drawing hands the same size, let's see, if his hand is this big back here, it's darn near twice the size as the backhand. And if it, maybe it's the same, no, maybe a little bit. Yeah, okay. All right, so it's darn near twice the size and width. And yes, it's open, I understand that, but it's bigger nonetheless as an object. If you notice the size of the forearms and of the biceps and of the shoulder, you see that as it comes forward, it becomes bigger. What I draw becomes bigger. It's the same idea as the ice cream cone. The farther back that it is, the smaller it becomes. The closer it is, the bigger it becomes. So we get that exaggerated effect. And that's what it's a little bit more delightful to the eye. When we're looking at something and we're able to see, that it's not just a square on, no offense if this is your game and you like to do your stick man. Hey, no offense, you got to start somewhere. But, the stick man is boring because everything is at the same level. So when we start to add dynamism to our art, we're going to start adding that push and that pull to the objects that we're doing. So that's really kind of the first example or second example. So now let's talk about doing that live. Oh, wait. Other way. And I've got my sample here. Let's see. Where'd my email go? There we go. How's everybody doing tonight? Go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know how you're doing. Hope everyone's doing great. That's the hope, at least. I'm having fun. This is, I get to share the joy of art with everybody, and I like that. Okay, so I went ahead. Now, like I was saying, it's tough finding some of these examples of forced perspective. People, if you get on Pinterest, which I still do not recommend that you get on that website. If you get on Pinterest, that's like, get ready to lose an hour or two, because you're going to just be on there and it's just like this time suck. Excuse me. So I took a selfie before class, which I want to do. I like taking selfies, not in the narcissistic way, but just in the, documentarian way. So I took a selfie of myself, and I'm going to just kind of show my process for drawing that so that you can see what that might look like for yourself. So if you do have your camera or your phone with you, take a selfie. Stick your hand up like this. Give yourself a nice thumbs up. I'll share this reference too if you guys want to have it, in your system. That's fine. Maybe not in your system, like download this photo. But that way you would have a link to it. I don't necessarily want, well, I don't know. Who cares? Okay, so I've got my face here, and I'm just doing that same kind of building blocks of the face. Where I've got my eyes and my nose and the base of my mouth. I'm smiling in this photo. It's pretty cool. I like it. I'm going to start defining the width of my face, just like that. Notice I'm being real sketchy. I don't really particularly care, how right or wrong my marks are, because I can always erase. I didn't cover the tools of success at the beginning of this class, but anytime you want to sit down and actually start working on an art project, I'm going to recommend that you got your tools for success. For me, in this particular teaching series, I've been using just a regular old ramekin bowl to catch my shavings. I've got a fat red eraser that I just adore, color pencil, and a pencil sharpener. Super easy. That's all you need. But I like to have them all at hand before I get started, because there's really nothing as frustrating as like really sitting down, getting into the mode of it, and you're drawing, and then all of a sudden, snap, your lead breaks. Okay, great. Where's my pencil sharpener? And then you're looking around for it, and you can't find it. And then, you stand up, pull all the cushions out. Okay, where did it go? I just had it. I can't believe it. Where is it? Well, turns out it's in your pocket or wherever it is. I don't know. I'm just making it up. And so now you just wasted 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes. You still got a broken lead, and you're starting to get out of the zone, because, to make art, art is like a meditative process for me. And once I'm in the art making mode, I just want to focus into that. And anything that I can do to mitigate those breaks in my focus, the more long-term success I'm going to have in my ability to continue making this art or having this vision. I'm a believer that the spirit of inspiration moves through us, and that, we, the artists, are conduits like radios are to radio waves. And it's like, once that signal goes through, then there's not really any sort of, way to get it back, because that broadcast it's gone. So, deep philosophy time of the class. But anyway, so, I'm just being real loose with my lines. There we go. I wore a hat in this photo. I don't know why, because I guess I like this hat. I was wearing it earlier, but it was leaving a bad shadow on my face, so I can't be having that. Drawing ears, ears are basically just hexagons, so you don't have to worry about getting super detailed with the ears. Just draw a hexagon kind of idea. Let's see, that hat. Hats are always tricky, man. Hats give me a hard time. Do a little roundy round thing, kind of a halo. I hope that looks all right. I've got curly hair, and I've got a lot of it because I've been in quarantine for, I don't know, however long this quarantine thing's been going on. I can't go get a haircut, because then I wouldn't be in quarantine. And if I get cut, well, then that's bad. So, I've got this shaggy hair, and it's starting to drive me crazy, guys. I just can't tell you enough. And, I'm wrapping these eyebrows around my head, and it's fun. I like it. There we go. I'm just using simple lines. Don't have to go crazy. People like to, when they're drawing, people like to make these ridiculously, I don't know, how do I say this? So sketchy, and it's just no, man, just put that stroke down, just see what happens. If you don't like it, use your tool for success. Erase that snot, man. Just be done with it. Who cares? It's for fun anyway. So I'm drawing myself. Yep. That's pretty much what I look like. Got eyes, got a nose, got a jawline, receding hairline. That's why I wore the hat. I'm not just kidding, but it is funny. At least I hope it's funny. I hope you're laughing at home. Okay, so this is that guy looks weird. That is what I look like, though. Okay, I got little eyes, and they're close together, and they're deep set. There we go. A couple of lines there, and head. Okay, so that looks like me enough. Enough to party, at least for the purposes of this class. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this thumbs up that I've given myself. And I know that you guys are watching from home, so you're not really able to see the reference that I'm using. But the idea is this. So if my head is here, I've got to now take this object, which I've moved closer to the screen, and I've got to represent it bigger than my head. If I represent it the same size or smaller than my head, then it's not going to read that it's closer. So especially, that's right. I like that. So especially as I'm especially as I'm like thinking about this, I want to be a little bit more dramatic as I'm learning this concept. It's always better to overdo something and then come back off it as you're learning, rather than it is to like, kind of piecemeal your way. At least that's the way that I like to learn. I like to kind of get my hands in there, get dirty, and then start to refine. Gotta refine that double chin here. It's actually not a double chin, but kind of looks like. Oh, I know what's missing. I'm missing these big old fangs here. There we go. Put those fangs in. I do recommend, guys, that if you do want to continue drawing after this series, and I hope to do this series for a while because I'm having fun doing it. I like drawing, and I like having an excuse to hang out with people and teach them how to draw. But try to start making caricatures of yourself. That's kind of a fun process. It'll teach you to observe, first of all, your features, and what you like about your features. Maybe you've got a nose that, like is pointed up a little bit like that, or maybe you got a nose that's pointed down a little bit like that, or maybe it's a little crooked, or maybe you got, little itty bitty tiny eyes that are close to each other. Maybe you got big eyes that are wide apart, or maybe you got one eye that's up here and one eye that's down here. Get real Picasso with yourself, but have fun. Experiment. I mean, you are your first and primary model. If you think about art history, a lot of our most famous artists in history used themselves or made some kind of reference to themselves in their art. And it's a joy to be able to see these things. It's a joy to, go to a museum for, Raphael or Leonardo or Henri Matisse, or especially Pablo Picasso. I mean, everybody. I think just about everybody knows that guy's name. I was thinking about this guy. This man must have been quite a self-promoter. I mean, like, for him to be able to like be an absolute bastard, and excuse my language because I'm trying to keep this like as friendly as possible, for kids. But this guy was a jerk. I mean, he was not nice. But people still love him, and he's a great artist, so you can't like not love him. So anyway, but he must have been a real great self-promoter. I'm sure he was. Like the Little John of modernism. Okay, so now I did my head, right? And it's one size. And now I'm going to do the rest of me, that hand. Oh, yeah. I'm going to throw in some of these massive delts right here. Boom. Been working out. No big deal. Getting them delts looking swole. I ain't got nothing else to do. Might as well get prison swole, So notice that for that hand, I just drew a kind of a fat rectangle to represent that hand. And I use a lot of those simple shapes that I teach to really just put the idea down, and then I'll refine and refine and refine. But notice that also allowed me to automatically set the size of the object that I'm going to draw. I'm going to make the hand bigger than the head. And that's really going to give me the illusion that it's closer to the camera, closer to the viewer than what it might be otherwise. So, I started little head, boom, there's that. I'm going to keep refining if I keep looking at myself, so I'm stopping. And, then you can just boop, boop, boop. There you go, fingers. I just did some soft lines. If you're drawing for the first time, I think the temptation is to draw as hard as you can. And I'm going to try to break you of that habit. Holding the pencil gently is going to help you produce nicer, visually looking strokes. When we're thinking about the finish out to the work, if you've got these you dug the snot out of your page with your pencil, it's the lines aren't gonna look as good, at least not in my opinion. It's gonna look like, man, this guy or gal dug the snot out of this page. This poor thing is walloped. And so here's the thing about the box. Like, again, it's a placeholder. I'm gonna break the box simply because the knuckles are oddly shaped, right? So if I was going to try to keep everything within the box, you can do that, more power to you, but it's an organic shape. So, not every little bit of the line is going to come and terminate at the same point. One knuckle, especially the middle knuckle, is going to be farther out. Then you got the ring knuckle, that's going to be a little bit tucked in. The pinky knuckle is going to be tucked in the most. Even if you're looking at it like this, you can see, I've got a square shape, but I've actually got a pentagon shape if I isolate it like that. Y'all see what I'm saying? Hopefully you do. And that's cool. If I really want to get particular with it, then fine. I'll just draw that pentagon shape. And then there you go. Now if you really do need to follow the lines, go for it, man. It's in there. It's already done for you because you did it for yourself. And that's what's nice. And so I'm drawing these, big old knuckles here as they approach the camera. And notice I'm not really using a lot of curved lines either as I'm drawing this shape. I'm using a lot of straight lines because straight lines are a little bit more forgiving, I think, within the art making arena. Maybe somebody else has got a different opinion, but when I use straight lines, I can render round objects with straight lines. And straight lines, I can just, my body understands straight lines a little bit better. Let's see, that one went in a little bit more than I wanted it to. Boop. And then another subtle thing, this back side of the hand actually kind of rounds in like that. A lot of times, so even though I did the square, notice it comes in. If I was to turn it, you can see that this knuckle starts over here and this knuckle starts over here. And I'm not doing anything but just holding this pencil. So the knuckles move around in that hand. Okay. Just gonna throw some shading on there, just a little bit, just being loose. One way, and this is going to be a technique that as we begin to refine this process, one way to be thinking about how to understand light, especially as you're looking at it, is to squint. So, maybe if you get kind of pirate-eyed like this, and look at something, close one eye and squint the other one. What you'll do when you see that is details will start to go away. And what you'll start to see is the light and dark of an object versus, the refined, individual hairs, that zit that I've been cooking for about a week here on my cheek. All that stuff starts to go away. It's kind of like looking at somebody in candlelight. It's very romantic, but it makes even ugly people look okay. So no offense if you're ugly. So the thumb kind of comes up here like this. It's a little bit football shaped, and yeah, I know I just said I'm using straight lines. You can leave a comment if you're mad about it. But I've got my thumb coming up here, and the thumb comes up off the angle, so I don't have to be totally, straight up and down with it. I'm just drawing a thumb, basic thumb shape, real thummy looking. And I'm whipping that around, drawing that little tendon thing there, here. And in this particular exercise, I did have a pencil. So the other point of having a light grip while you're drawing is it's easier to track the page when you make your shoulder-based movement. So a lot of us draw at first like the way we write, which is with our wrists and with our fingers. And when you're actually trying to draw, that doesn't really lend itself to your favor very much. Really better way to be drawing, especially at first, is with your shoulder and allowing your body to make big strokes rather than the little strokes that come from here. And a lot of that is just because the anatomy of your body works more like that. You can do these simple things. And if you're real hard, you're going to start to jump and stagger, and your lines aren't going to come out the way that you want. Okay. So let's see. I've got that. Boop. And yep. All right. It's okay to look back and forth at your reference. In fact, I encourage you to look back and forth to and from your reference often. And that photo terminates there. There we go. Oh man, I'm kind of all wonky all over the place. This should be bigger and down here, but that's okay because I can bring it lower. And I've also got my tool for success, which is this eraser. I guess that forearm's not as long. Maybe I need to shorten that forearm. There we go. That looks a little bit more proportional. Cool. Okay, I'm happy with that. So that's the bottom of the picture. A little dark here. Okay. Now, so I need to now find my focus point or my light point. Where is the light coming from? Well, in this example, light is coming down basically like this. And I can see that for a couple of different reasons. I can see that because when I look at the direction of my cast shadows on my face, let me make my neck a little bit wider. I don't look like such a pencil neck, maybe that's why my neck hurts all the time. Oh well. Okay, so I've determined where my light is. I can see that by just kind of retro backfitting into where my drop or my shadows, my cast shadows are coming from. Oh yeah. I'm going to draw my apron. And you see the fun thing about these little lines like that. I can be as wrong as I want and still be okay. I've got my Zilker Park patch right here that I got last year at ACL. That was a good time. I don't know if you've ever been to ACL, Austin City Limits. It's fun, a little music festival that we have here in the state capitol. Sometimes, bands that play music will be there. Sometimes it's like, they had a, well, hello, thank you for coming in. They had last year I got to see, oh man, I got to see Childish Gambino last year. That was like one of the best shows. I mean, talk about just an overall wonderful human being. That guy can sing. He is a wonderful actor. He's a wonderful writer. Really just a true talent to behold. I'm kind of tickled that I get to share some oxygen with him, some time on the same planet. Okay. So there we go. There we go. Okay, that's me. And I'm not too worried. His eyes maybe could be a little bit bigger. I don't care. So forced perspective. Already you can see that the head is small and the hand is big. So now I'm going to kind of take, as I wrap up our series, our education series on drawing people, I'm going to start and I'm going to finish with using those same tools of light that I've already defined. What I like to do as I'm going in and I'm drawing, one of the reasons why, and somebody's asked me this before, why do I like to use either colored pencils or wooden pencils? And one of the main reasons for that is that I'm able to use this tool in multiple ways that I can't really use it in a mechanical pencil way. Mechanical pencils are great, and I love drawing with mechanical pencils. Back when I was in high school in Dallas, I would use mechanical pencils because I would read cartoon books, and mechanical pencils give you a nice consistent line weight. But then when I moved on to college and I learned, more sophisticated drawing techniques, I realized that I was leaving a lot of mark potential out of my repertoire as an artist. So when I take a tool like this that has a point, I can make a nice refined line. I will doubt it if you can see that, but if you can, wonderful. Or I can take this tool, I can turn it on its side, and now I've got a device that I can use to apply a technique that's called scumbling. And I think that the word scumble is just quite fun to say anyway. And I'm always on the lookout for fun words that I get to say and add to my vocabulary. Because language is fun. It's fun to be able to talk and communicate with each other. And, then when you can say words like scumbling, it's like all of a sudden you're in a secret club together. People are like, oh man, you know scumbling too? Oh, that's rad, man, I love scumbling. And you're like, heck yeah. And then you got a friend for life. Because who is not going to be friends with somebody who also says scumbling? I mean, I challenge you. Please, if you would, find somebody that says scumbling and see if they're all right. I bet they're going to be all right as a person. Okay, so I'm going to just start scumbling. I've identified my light source. So in this example, I'm going to just kind of trace out where my highest highs are going to be. Notice I'm just using real rough shapes. I'm not really particularly concerned about what the exactness is. If you wanted to get real refined and real precise with it, you're more than welcome to. You'll take more time, and it is Thursday, and you are quarantined, or you should be quarantined. If you're not quarantined, see me after class, and we'll have a little conversation about citizenship and responsibility to your fellow human beings and whatnot. But nonetheless, when you're doing this, just have fun with it. This is art, man. And whatever it is that you come up with from it, freestyle a little bit. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process of making mistakes. A lot of people are afraid to make mistakes when they make art. And it's like, man, you think you're going to be in the Louvre? Like, no way, man. Like, this is for you. This is for your enjoyment. Maybe you can use your art to make a gift for somebody, maybe somebody you love, maybe a friend. I've got a couple of projects that I'm working on, some thank you gifts for some people who have done some nice things for me. And, you don't have to give money. You can if you want, but you can give art, man. Art is a wonderful gift. I would love it, man. Here's a secret to me. If we're friends and you want to give me something, make me a drawing. Think of something that that I like and make me a drawing of it, because that's going to be a time investment that I know that you made specifically on behalf of your delight in who I am as your friend. And it doesn't have to be me. I'm just speaking of like the royal me. That every time I look at that thing, I'm going to be reminded that, man, somebody cares. Somebody cares enough about me to make a drawing of some jujitsu things, or like a bonsai tree or something, stuff that I like. It's good. So I'm just going through, I got these nice deep eyeball sockets. The other thing about your pencil pressure is as you go around, you can start to, add more value as you go. If you start all heavy all at once, it's hard with a pencil situation to bring that value back, back to white or light again. But if you start light, and if it's a little bit too dark, well, you haven't gone too far down the road. You can still save it. You can still bring it back. You can still add some of the good values that you want to add to it. And that's important, especially as you make mistakes. That's already a mistake looking right there. My chin isn't that dark. Oh well, I don't care. Got my tool. Oops. I got my tool for success. Smile lines. You know, here's something. Here's a little secret to know about drawing faces. If you're going to draw faces, which I encourage you to do, because especially there's another good gift idea. Um, People like pictures of themselves or people that they love. So, or their pets. Oh man, there you go. That's like the winning three things. Um, Pictures of themselves, picture of things that they love, or their pets. Um, as you're drawing people, there are specific line areas that you can add more emphasis to that will make the person look younger or older. So we've got these lines here on the face. That's called the nasolabial crease. So this is the naso and then the labiolips crease right here. We have a circular muscle set around the mouth. The human mouth is one of the most wonderfully articulated muscle groups of the animal kingdom. And our tongue especially is one of the tongue, soft palate, and this area. No other animal has the specific development that we have, to be able to finally articulate movement like that we can do with our lips and things. But, this is about drawing, so who cares about that, right? When you add really heavy nasolabial creases, you'll have somebody that looks older on the page. Same goes with like forehead lines. Now, I didn't do as many forehead lines because I'm vain. No, but in this photo reference, I don't have a lot of forehead line. So I didn't really draw it, right? And I got the lines here. Sometimes drawings don't feel like they're right yet. And as you're making art at home, I'm just going to encourage you to keep going, because if it doesn't feel right yet and you're like, man, I want to quit because I'm not any good, just keep going, because eventually you're going to like start to fill in. It's like a puzzle, you'll start to fill in the part that you need to. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, oh, that does look like it. Oh, wow. Oh, great. Yay. Okay. That makes you happy. Okay, let's see. Does anybody know any good music? Anybody listen to anything good? I've been listening to this band. I got introduced to this band called Wolfpack here recently. And I promise you, man, I've been listening to that band almost exclusively for the last, week and a half. The guy who's in that band, he can play piano like just a mad genius. I mean, it's wonderful. I love listening to that band. I like anything that's like super creative like that. So if you've got a good band that you think I should listen to, if it's your own band, I don't care. I got some friends on here that have some like pet project bands, and I love them. I got a friend from jiu-jitsu camp last year. I was in Germany, and that was fun. Before all this quarantine business started happening, he was going to play a show down in San Antonio, and I was really excited to see it. So if you've got somebody that you want me to hear, let me know, because I always could use a new earworm. Let's see. Just having fun. So here's another thing. So I'm getting in here to these knuckles, and there's parts of the knuckles that are lighter and parts that are darker, right? And as I taught last time in the 6 stages of light, I can start to add more and more and more darkness to something. Okay, there we go. That looks a little bit more. See, I found it. Hey, all right, yeah, I found it. Yay. Okay, that looks more like me in like a weird way. That's okay. I don't have to look at myself except for when I look in the mirrors. That's fine. So y'all have to look at me. So that's your problem. Okay. So as I'm doing this, I always like to back into my shadows with flat color or with flat shade. And what I mean by that is notice how I'm starting and pretty much this whole like shadow shape is consistent. And then what I'll do is I'll start getting in there and I'll start adding more body to my shadow. So that way I'm not trying to find all the shadows at once. I know that I've got a general shaded area. You know, that goes back to my squinting technique where I've got one eye closed and I squint the other one and I can't see the details anymore. I can only just see where the light is. You know, the light's on this side, dark's on that side. And then like I don't have to worry so much about the details because I'm not really worried about the details yet. The details come later. You want to start adding the details to finish the drawing. You know, I see a lot of these people and they're super good, right? So like I said, and like I've said many times and will continue to say, there's no wrong way to do this. I've just been drawing for, you know, many, many years. And these are the techniques that I like. This is the way that I like to do things. This is the way that I've found success doing it. I'm sure that there are better techniques or different techniques or just maybe not objectively better, but techniques that are just, they work better for you than this, you know, and that's fine. Use it, man. As long as you're making art, as long as you're spreading joy, that's all that really matters to me. And this pencil is ziggy, zaggy, ziggy. That's not even accurate. I don't care. I'm having fun. Yeah, okay. And we'll just have to finish this bad boy out. Here's the temptation to fight. The temptation is to invent wantonly, which means to just start doing things because you think that that's the way that it should be. The brain doesn't always tell the truth when you're drawing. And that may sound like a weird idea, but it's true. The brain has, the way that our brains work is they see something and then they kind of summarize it in our mind for what it's supposed to do and how it's supposed to work. And so that's where we come up with like abstraction, you know, like, okay, what is that? If you said that looks like a horse, I'm gonna call BS on you. That's a bicycle, right? But the mind can put these constituent elements together and create an object that I didn't even draw, right? Well, the mind is going to do that with other things. So as you're learning to be observational and draw, you've got to understand that it's going to not try to trick you intentionally, but it's going to give you the summary version of what it is that you're looking for first, rather than the actual version of what it is that you're seeing. So as you learn the skill of art, you know, just be aware of that. Be mindful that, you know, your brain is going to try to trick you for your own good. You know, it's like in the wilderness, it's like, oh, that's not a real tiger. Oh, no, that's a real tiger. You better go. Let's see. Okay. And, you know, the thing is, art is such a wonderful thing. I could get lost in doing this for like, I don't know, another half hour, maybe another 45 minutes. But we are coming on to time. You know, I try to keep these at about an hour. Does anybody have any questions? Are there any questions that I can? What's up, Ombre, man? Long time no see, buddy. How have you been? You all handsome devil? Let's see. Well, I think I lost my, did I kill my YouTube? Oh, well, I don't care. There it is. It's back. I do care. I care about you, YouTube guys. Don't worry. I love you guys. Okay, so does anybody have any questions just about art making, art process, I know that I covered a lot today, and I did some of this live observational sight drawing. For y'all who are looking at home, that's kind of what I'm seeing. It looks more like me, at least I think it does, but oh well. That's the fun thing about art is even if it's failed, I've had a good time. And this looks like I've got bicycles on my mind, and I do. I do like bicycles. Those are fun. Yeah, man. Good. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you're here. Your selfie looks nothing like yourself. Well, that's okay. That's okay. As long as you're practicing, right? It's all about incremental progress. I did the math for one of the videos a couple of weeks ago, and the math was this. If you do, and I'm going to butcher this, so I don't care. If you work every day toward making a 1% improvement, when you compound that 1% growth over, I want to say 365 iterations, you wind up with something like 37. I don't know, maybe it's 3.7 or something like that. You wind up quadrupling or tripling, whatever it is, do your math. This isn't a math class. If you wanted a math class, deal with it. Oh, Instagram's giving me my timer to shut it down. Anyway, guys, I love you. Thank you for stopping by. I will post the YouTube link. It's ready. It's good to go. And I will see you guys next time. Cool. Y'all on YouTube, I'm glad that you're sticking around. Instagram is obviously the inferior system to be on. But yeah, if you have comments or questions, or if there's something that you want to learn to draw, please let me know. I love drawing. Today's class was all about forced perspective and understanding how to make objects come at you in space. But if there's other topics that have not been covered in the videos yet, let me know and we'll get to them. If there's things that you want to learn more about that I've already taught, or if you have specific questions, please drop me a line, leave a comment on one of the videos. That being said, thank you so much for your participation. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys next Tuesday. All right. Have a great weekend, y'all. If you are celebrating the Holy Weekend that is coming up, I wish you joy. I wish you happiness with your friends and your family, as long as you're social distancing, and spread a little love if you can. All right. Bye, y'all.